Welcome back to Revenge Lollipop. Do not forget to subscribe. Let's begin. The invitation that wasn't really an invitation. Growing up in the Preston household meant two things. Christmas wasn't a holiday, it was a battlefield. You were either the golden child or you were invisible. I was the second. My younger brother, Tyler, was the son of the family. Everything revolved around him. Honor roll, basketball star, Dad's favorite employee at the family business. The list never ended. I wasn't the rebel. I just wasn't useful. When I moved out at 19 to pursue graphic design instead of joining the family construction company, my father, David Preston, said, "You're choosing failure over family." For years I tried to earn a place back, birthdays, Father's Day, random Sunday visits. But every holiday reminded me I was a guest in my own childhood home. Still, I kept showing up, maybe out of hope, maybe out of habit. When December rolled around, I debated skipping Christmas entirely. But then Mom called with her usual careful voice, the one she only used when Dad wasn't around. "Sweetheart, we're having dinner at 6. If you're free, we'd love to see you." I heard the unspoken words, "Try again. Maybe this time will be different." Spoiler, it wouldn't be. But this Christmas, I had a surprise they didn't know about. A letter, sealed in Dad's old handwriting, that would shake the foundation of everything they believed about me and about themselves. Dad unknowingly wrote it 14 years ago, and tonight I was finally going to read it. Chapter 2, The Drive Home. Snow fell in lazy spirals as I drove through the quiet streets toward my childhood home. Somehow even the weather felt hesitant, unsure whether this night would end in peace or disaster. Holiday lights glowed from every house except ours, of course. Dad always said Christmas decorations were a waste of electricity. Mom, who secretly loved them, would hang a single wreath on the door once the sun set and Dad went to sleep. Every year she added a bow or a pine cone, or small golden bells, tiny rebellions disguised as holiday spirit. As I approached, I saw this year's wreath. The bow was red velvet, a little brighter than usual, a little braver. I parked my car and sat for a moment, breathing deeply. In the glove compartment was the letter old, yellowed around the edges. I'd found it while cleaning storage boxes last month. Dad wrote it during one of the worst years of our family's life, when I was 14 and everything shifted. I still hadn't told my parents I found it. You should leave it alone, I told myself. But the truth deserved to be spoken, and I deserved to be seen. I got out of the car, boots crunching softly in the snow, and walked to the front door. I knocked. The door swung open, and there he was. Dad stood in the doorway in his usual holiday uniform, a formal shirt, sleeves rolled up, belt fastened one notch too tight, and a scowl that could freeze boiling water. When his eyes landed on me, they didn't soften, they sharpened. Then he sighed, rolled his eyes, tilted his head back with dramatic disappointment. "You still showed up?" He said it in a tone usually reserved for salesmen and stray cats. Behind him I saw Tyler laughing with guests in the dining room, wearing a new watch that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Dad didn't step aside. Automatically I shrank a little. Old habits. Then I remembered what I was holding inside my coat pocket. This year I wasn't just a guest. I was a storm he didn't see coming. "Mom invited me," I said calmly. "She invites everyone. Doesn't mean I expected you to take her seriously." "Dad," I said quietly, "it's Christmas." He gave a short, cold laugh, then give me a gift and leave. Mom appeared behind him at that exact moment, her hand touching his arm. "David," she whispered sharply, "stop." Dad didn't move. Mom gently pulled the door wider and wrapped her arms around me. "I'm so happy you're here." Dad turned and walked inside without another word. I stepped in. I knew this Christmas would be different, but I had no idea how explosive it was about to get. Christmas dinner in the Preston house always felt more like a corporate meeting than a family celebration. Everything was set with military precision. The good plates, the crystal glasses, perfectly aligned napkins, but the real tension wasn't in the decorations, it was in the air. Tyler looked up when I entered. "Oh wow," he said with a mocking grin. "You made it. Didn't think art school deadlines would let you come." I didn't bother correcting him. I'd graduated years ago and worked full-time as a senior designer. They all knew that. Conveniently ignoring my career gave them a false sense of superiority. Dad sat at the head of the table, naturally, As I took my seat, he muttered under his breath, "Should have made a seating chart for unexpected guests." Mom squeezed my wrist from across the table, a small apology in the only language she could safely speak. Dinner started quietly at first, the clinking of silverware, the occasional forced compliment about the food. Then Dad cleared his throat loudly. "So," he said, "any big failures you want to share this year?" Mom closed her eyes. Tyler smirked. Relatives exchanged uncomfortable glances. It was the same every Christmas, Dad poking, prodding, waiting for me to say something weak so he could attack. But this year I didn't respond. Not yet. Instead, I reached into my jacket and felt the old letter. Soon. Not yet. I looked straight at Dad. A letter you wrote 14 years ago. Dad's face drained of color, then darkened like a storm cloud. "I didn't write you anything," he growled. "No," I said softly. "You wrote it for Mom. About me." Mom gasped. Tyler's head snapped toward Dad. The air froze. This was it. With hands that didn't shake, I unfolded the old paper. Dad lunged forward. "Give me that." I held up my hand. "No," Mom whispered. "David." "What is this?" His jaw tightened. I started reading aloud. December 23rd, 20. Maria. "I don't know what's happening to our son. He's quiet, withdrawn, keeps avoiding home. I worry he thinks we don't see him, or worse, that we don't care. I'm afraid I'm failing him. I don't want him to feel like he has to earn love here. He doesn't. I just don't know how to say that without messing it up. I need to do better." The room was silent enough to hear the refrigerator humming. I continued. "I know I push him too hard. I know I compare him too much to Tyler. He's different. And that's not a bad thing. He's creative, sensitive, smarter than he thinks. I see it, even if I pretend not to. I want to fix this. Before he stops coming home." Mom pressed her hands over her mouth, tears falling. Tyler looked stunned. Dad looked like a man stabbed by his own words. I finished the last line. "I love him. He needs to know that. I just hope one day I'll be brave enough to say it." Silence. Then Dad spoke in the smallest voice I had ever heard from him. "I never meant for you to read that. The truth behind the letter." Dad stood slowly, gripping the table as if it were the only thing keeping him upright. "That letter was a moment of weakness." "No," Mom said firmly. "It was a moment of honesty." Tyler swallowed hard. "Dad, you wrote all that?" Dad didn't answer him. He looked at me. "When I wrote that," he said, "your grades were slipping. You were barely speaking to us. You spent most days locked in your room drawing." "I was depressed," I said quietly. Dad closed his eyes. "I know, I didn't know how to help you. So I pretended nothing was wrong." His voice cracked. And pretending turned into habit. I let the weight of his words settle. "So all these years," I asked, "you hated me because you were scared?" He looked up sharply. "I never hated you." He paused. "I hated myself around you because you reminded me of every way I failed as a father." Mom wiped her tears. "David, why didn't you change?" His voice broke. "Because the longer I stayed silent, the harder it became. And then I convinced myself you didn't want me anymore." My throat tightened. "You pushed me away," I whispered. "All while thinking I left you." Dad sat down heavily, defeated. "I know." I placed the letter in front of him. "You wrote this 14 years ago, and I kept waiting for the father who wrote it. Thank you for watching. Subscribe."